Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a beautiful start to the day. We have got colours that are coming from the eastern horizon as the sun begins to rise through a blanket of clouds. It really is a very, very pretty way to start our morning. It also seems like there's a little bit of a cold front that's going to come in, or rainy front, should I say, as well, which is always welcome. Now, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Senzo. There we go, the three fingers as normal. And so we are going to be taking you now on a ride through the African bush, as many of you will know. But for anybody that is new, remember that this is an interactive experience. So you can ask any questions that you may have, or if you want to just share where you're watching from or anything like that, you're welcome to do so as well. So hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or YouTube chat should you want to interact with us. Now, I'm in the area of where I had a visual of what looked like the Hukumuri male. I wasn't 100% sure, but it looked very much like him, going past where we stay last night and then heading down towards the dam. But I see he hasn't actually arrived at the dam, and I've got tracks for him going in and out of where we're currently parked at the moment. So it wasn't just a view of the sunrise, I was also just having a situation where I was just stopping and listening. I wonder if maybe he's not associated with that sound that Conrad and Jared heard yesterday of a squealing warthog. Maybe he's got a kill somewhere in this area behind us, but we'll have a little look around and see what we can do. I'm not 100% sure that he does, though, because his tracks are all over the place, going up and down, and when I saw him last night, his nose was to the ground and he was sniffing and seemed to be on a really serious mission to get somewhere. So we'll see what we can do, but he definitely hasn't come out at the dam, hasn't come out on Wahlberg's as yet, and so, well, he must be somewhere here. And so while we try and find him and see where he's gotten to, let's send you across to Ali and see what she's going to be up to this morning.
Good morning, everyone. Lovely to have you on board. My name is Ali, and on camera with me today is VM, and we are also missioning around trying to look for slightly bigger tawny colored cats with less visible spots. So we are in the look for lions this morning. Now, if you've got any questions or comments, you're more than welcome to post them through using the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, post them on the YouTube chat. Sorry, I cannot speak. Only had one cup of coffee this morning. Right, so VM and I have decided to do a bit of a southern patrol just to go check some of the water holes, because the lions tend to come and drink from them early morning, late afternoon, and then we're going to head straight onto that area where we last saw them yesterday, where we think they were last seen yesterday, and perhaps go also towards where the big buffalo herd was seen yesterday afternoon, as I have a feeling lions are probably going to be interested in a lot of meat. So hopefully we'll be able to spot something later on. And I think, well, Tristan definitely wants to see that Hukumuri male, seeing that we actually bumped into him last night on the way back from our staff quarters. He was sniffing the gate, so it wasn't the best thing just to see him. Then we were like, okay, this is a bit scary. Well, bye-bye. But I'm sure he's still around, and I'm just impressed at how much he's actually been walking. So we had his tracks going north all the way towards Tristan is, so we are moving away from that area, and we're going to let him handle that side of things. After all, Tristan is the leopard whisperer. So we haven't had any luck with recent lion tracks. We only saw some of them, but they were from yesterday, of where some of them had walked before pretty much crossing off the way from Djuma and then getting out of the reserve and heading on to another reserve, or another property, not another reserve. Now, just arrived at Treehouse Dam. Doesn't seem to be too much life around here. I think maybe just Scuba Steve, a hippo, will be in the middle of it, but he's gone down. He's actually quite a shy hippo. Doesn't like to be featured on camera all that much. You can just see the ripples in the water from where he was. And it's still quite dark, as you all can see. It's a nice blue reflection with the clouds at the back, and is feeling already very hot this morning despite all the cloud cover. There we go. Ha-ha! We know you're there. He was probably not too happy to be seen. The water is shrinking, so I'm sure he's not too happy. He's typical, you will not see me, I'm just gonna get air by move. It's fine. Hopefully you'll get a little bit of rain and then you'll be able to come out. I think we are definitely going to be getting some rain today, or at least during the weekend. If you can see the cloud cover, still a bit of sunshine coming through, but I wouldn't be surprised if later on at some point we have a storm. So also it feels like we should, because it's getting very humid and very hot. Right, we're gonna leave Scuba Steve down in his little water hole, and we're gonna carry on to another dam, see if perhaps we can find any tracks on the way there. Bye bye, Scuba Steve. We're going to carry on driving to Twin Dam, see if there's anything around there, perhaps any tracks or any cats that have come our way. But while we do that, we're going to send you all the way across to the Mara to say hello to James Henry.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Maasai Mara. My name is James Henry. For those of you who don't know, the last time I saw you, of course, I think I was on foot at Djuma. Well, much water has passed under the bridge since then, and here I find myself in the Maasai Mara with Archie on camera. There we go. I've just met Archie. Archie doesn't like me very much yet. We still have to get used to each other, but that's okay. And then I also have David, who many of you met a little while back, and I will introduce you to over the coming little while on the back with us. Okay, well, it's marvellous to be back here, I must say. The sun has yet to peep up over the eastern horizon. We do have a few balloons I can see floating along here. I'm not sure you're going to see them yet unless they fire their burners, which some of them will be doing. You see that one there, Archie? It's just gone past Governor's Camp over there. We'll just see if we can... There it is, the burner's lit up. If he doesn't burn quite a lot, he's not going to get off the ground. Please keep talking to us. Hashtags Fry Live on Twitter, of course, and you can use the chat stream on YouTube. We would love to have your questions and your comments. I'm going to be silent for the next 10 seconds so that you may listen to the very subdued dawn chorus. So when you come to a new area like I have again, well, it's not really new anymore, but it is newish in the stint, it's always interesting to note how much of the sound you forget, and you've got to relearn everything as you keep going again. So I can't identify a huge number of the little swizzling calls there were. There were a couple of weavers, perhaps a sisticular or two, and maybe a chat, I think. And then there are definitely some Franklins shouting down in the valley. All right, I'm not sure where we're going to go today. I think we're going to have a sort of random exploration just to reacquaint ourselves with the Maasai Mara, and we'll see what's happening there. Right now, let us go across to Tristain. I'm not sure what he has. I suspect he's looking for leopards. He's always looking for leopards.
Well, James, you guessed correctly. That is exactly what I'm doing, and I'm glad that James is safe in the Mara, and I'm sure he's going to be thoroughly enjoying being back there and having a little drive around and seeing what's been going on over the last couple of months since he was last there. Now, we have come out onto past Ingers, which is where we stay, and kind of come back towards the dam, and we've got tracks for this male leopard going straight down the road towards the dam, but I don't know if he actually got there because I eventually went and checked the waterhole down at the bottom, and I couldn't find any tracks going in that direction. So either he's crossed somewhere where I didn't see, or he's kind of not gone to where the water is itself. But like I say, the tracks do head on the left-hand side of the road, kind of moving straight down and towards the waterhole itself. I'll try and show you the tracks. It's quite difficult because there's not very much light, so I was trying to use the car lights. But if you have a look on that left side, you'll see that there are little indents in the sand. So there we go. And there's the tracks. They're not as clear as I would like them to be. It's quite soft, puffy sand, and so the tracks get distorted quite quickly in that soft, puffy sand. But that is definitely for a male leopard, and I'm pretty sure this is from where I saw him. He then walked in this direction and then started heading southwards towards the, well, sorry, not southwards, eastwards towards the dam. So we're going to just try and hang around and just see if I can work out exactly which way he went. I reckon he probably scent marked at this bush, and then from there it's going to be about working out where he went after that. I can see his tracks already coming across towards the bush, so I would imagine that's where he's gone to. Yes, there we go. You can see he's gone straight across here, and he's gone straight to the bush to go and scent mark. So it looks like Hukumari's kind of behavior, and so I wonder if I go and smell the bush, if it smells like popcorn or not, because if it is a fairly recent scent marking, it might smell like popcorn. So let's go have a little sniff. One has to do this from time to time. The problem is that this morning I've got a bit of a blocked nose, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to sniff anything. But sometimes you can actually even see the urine on the bush itself. But if we stand here, then we have to give it a good sniff. No popcorn smell. Maybe a little bit, but it's faint. It's not very fresh at all, so it must have been from early last night when I saw him, which means he could be anywhere by now. Now, I know that seems really odd, that I'm sniffing leopard urine first thing in the morning, but it's a good clue as to where or he may or may not have gone. So it was worthwhile just sniffing it out, and it's something that, well, at least it doesn't smell bad. It's not like having to go and try and smell for lion urine or something like that. That's got a bit more of a pungent scent. So he comes across like this, and then from here, that's very cool actually. He sat down here. This is very cool. I want to show you guys this track because he sat down and he's left a very different track to what you normally see from a leopard. But I need to just get a little bit more space for Senzo. Hold on, Senz. I'll get there eventually. Alright, so there we go. Now, I'll show you what I'm talking about. He was sitting on the road here, and where he sat, he came from the bush and scent marked, and then he sat right over here. So you can see this is his back foot over here and back foot there, and then this is the back section of his leg where he sat down. Isn't that cool? Now, you don't normally see this with a leopard. Normally you just see the footprints as normal as they walk, but when they sit down they leave this long elongated footprint. So there we go, those are the two back feet sitting, and then he took his first steps over there and went off. He didn't lie down. If he had laid down, we would have had a much more sort of smeared patch here, that he was just sitting and probably watching down towards the dam just to see what was going on. Maybe he was hunting and that's why he stopped here just to look around. But how cool is that to see the sort of back leg shape as they sit? Like I say, it's not something we see very often with the tracks. Right. He must have gone down to the waterhole. He literally has walked straight in that direction. His tracks point at the nest cam, so I'm going to just try and see if I can go down in that area. And so while I kind of check where these tracks go and see if he did actually go and drink, I'm going to send you back to Ali, who's looking for a slightly bigger cat than what I am, and hopefully she finds some tracks.
Well, unfortunately we haven't had much luck yet in our search for big cats, but I'm confident that we'll be able to get there at some point. Now, we've just arrived onto Twin Dams. There doesn't seem to be a lot going on here, so let's just have a look. Perhaps there'll be another hippo or something else lurking in the water. Although, I must say, looking as green as it is, I don't think too many creatures would come and actually start drinking from it. Or, well, it wouldn't be my first option if I was any of the animals around this area. Not beautiful. And it's funny that it's looking this way. Normally, all of this green stuff that we see on the water, it's called the green algae or the blue cyanobacteria. It's a very fancy name just for a microorganism that lives in the water and reproduces very quickly, especially when it's very, very hot like it's been now. But it's actually toxic to the animals. So they did some studies long time ago. Oh, there we go. There's a little terrapin that doesn't mind the green stuff. So if animals drink too much of it, then it actually affects their liver and it can cause death. And they were having some massive dives around some of the dams. I think it was in northern Kruger. And they couldn't figure out what was happening and why all of these animals that were dying had such an enlarged liver. And then eventually they managed to trace back the cause for their death in part of these bacteria that they've been drinking that are in the water. So that's probably why there are no hippo in here. And some of the animals come and drink from it. And if you see elephants coming and drinking from here, they just tend to move out the algae and then go past that top layer and then just go towards the bottom of the water and then just get it from there. Hello, little lapwings. Somebody's out and about at least this morning. Always making a racket. And so it's probably got to be one of the most prolific birds in all of southern Africa. Wherever you find a puddle, you will find one of them. Very, very pretty. They are called the blacksmith lapwings, and if you're wondering where the name comes from, well, the blacksmith part comes from that little noise that they were making where they were flying, when it almost seems like there's a blacksmith like hitting something. So it's ding, 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 ding. I'm not very good with animal calls. I apologize, but I hope you get the idea of what I was trying to say. Right. Seems like other than this, it's pretty deserted out here, so we're going to carry on, take one last road towards Chitwa line. We're going to go see if perhaps we can pick up any tracks there. I am feeling positive, so hopefully we'll be able to find something there. Whew. Right, Right, I'm going to carry on going in that general direction, but while we do that, I think we should go all the way to the Mara once more, just to see how James is enjoying the company of some of the bigger creatures that there are out there.
We are here with some beefies, while Ali looks for lions, which would very happily eat these beefies, I have no doubt. And there are a little group of bulls, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, and they are just ruminating their dinner. They seem to be in a fairly safe spot here on the escarpment, where they're able to look down for any oncoming marauding lions, of which I have heard nor seen any this morning or yesterday evening when I arrived. It is quite spectacular to be around this landscape again, or in this landscape again. It is really utterly spectacular. Justin, you want to know what animals we see at this time of the day? Well, if you've... it's a difficult question to answer, Justin, because basically you can see any animals at this time of the day. I guess it just depends whether they're active or not. So we've got the buffalo over here, which we can have a look at again. You're less likely, I suppose, to see the nocturnal predators at this time of the day. They'll all start creeping into the darkness now, or into the areas that they'll spend the day, things like serval, you would be unlikely to see now. But basically you can see anything at this time of the day except the strictly nocturnal creatures. There we have some oxpeckers that have just landed. Rebecca, who is directing from Djuma, wanted to see some oxpeckers for some reason. Well, there they are, Rebecca. Yellow-billed variety. You can see a youngster on the left there. That's an adult. You can see with the coloured beak. There we are. There's the little one, making a loud begging noise. And now you can hear some of the larks calling. Ooh, in fact they're not larks, and I've managed to leave my binoculars behind. They're chats. The sooty chat. They're behind us, so we can't see them right now. And then, way down in the valley, we have some other creatures. Will you train your camera on those, please, Archie? I think they're further buffaloes. There they are. That's it. Unless it was an early migratory herd, which is most certainly is not. Here we have some beefaloes, and I think I saw some elephants down there a little bit earlier as well. Now who kissed? Hissed? Trist? Bist? Mist? I don't know. You want to know the average mass of a beefalo? Hissed. With an H. The average mass of a beefalo hissed is probably close on, well, a big bull between 600 and 800 kilograms. In this area, I think they're probably slightly larger than the ones in South Africa, so let's go with about 700 kilograms or so, which if you multiply by 2.2 should get you to round about 1,800 pounds or so. The females a little bit less than that, down to about 400 kilograms or so, which is still pretty large, and that's about 900 pounds or so. So that's what they weigh. I actually, you know what, I'm going to take that back. I don't think that they are bodily bigger than the South African ones. They've certainly got wider horns, but I don't think that their bodies are any heavier. So, they are very variable. Let's say 600 to 800 kilos. They're just enjoying the fruits of their ruminations. In other words, the food that they have just vomited back up into their mouths and are now chewing. It is really a very disgusting thing to have to do, I feel, and I'm very pleased that I am not a ruminant. Let's have one last look at the sun before we press on down the road. It's about to come up over that horizon there. It is very gorgeous. Yes. There we are. Now, I have been told by Rebecca that Tristan has found a stripy antelope. I'm not sure why she's being cryptic. I don't know. Perhaps Tristan will be able to tell you.
I have indeed, James, but they don't want to be our friends this morning. They are running away from us, and that's maybe why Rebecca's been cryptic, is because they weren't really on screen very quick, well, for very long at all. They kind of ran off quite fast. But it is a small group of nyalas with a tiny little baby. There you can see the little baby drifting behind that raisin and just kind of disappearing into the thicket. They seem a little on edge, as do many of the animals around quarantine, and I suppose if there has been a male leopard around all through the night, that might mean that everyone is a little bit nervous, and especially if you are a mom with tiny little babies like this, that is the perfect size meal for any male leopard, and so it's no surprise that they're a little kind of nervous of us and why they ran from us a little bit and kind of went more towards the thickets where they can hide out and just hide those little ones as well. You'll find that nyala like to spend time in thicker, denser areas. It's also, the sun is starting to get up now, and even though it's cloudy, these nyala will know that it's going to start getting hot, and so they need to head towards the lodge where it's nice and cool, lots of big trees that they can sit under, and also lots of food. But you can see how quickly they disappear, as they have the perfect kind of structure and coloration and markings to just make them melt into the bush as quick as possible. So once they get behind some sort of structure, it is really quite tough to actually make them out. That female is being quite obliging and sitting a little bit more in the open, which is always quite nice. And then there we go, once it goes behind the foliage, it just becomes a bit of a sort of grey shape, and you would never spot that if it stood still from the distance that we are at. It would just be completely impossible almost to see it. Right. They've disappeared and carried on. Now, the tracks for that male leopard go towards the little pumped waterhole at the dam, but nothing comes towards the waterhole itself. Of course, it could have drank there, but the problem is that there was about 1 million tracks for wildebeest, impalas, and elephants, which means that everything else, should it have been before them, is completely squashed. So it could have been that he drank there early in the evening and then everybody else came and drank, and that's why we've got a situation where his tracks are completely obscured. And so what I'm doing is just coming to the northern side of the lodge now to see if he's walked this side. Michael, you say you know this is off topic, but do I think Hosana and Tingana have already met? Well, yes, that I know, but do you mean Tingana and Hukamuri? That's what I'm wondering, because we know that Hosana and Tingana have met many, many times. In fact, they've sat at kills together and have had all kinds of interactions with one another. So that has definitely been the case. But if it's Hukamuri and Tingana that you mean... Hukamuri, yes. No, I don't think so. I might be wrong, but I don't think so. I don't think the two of them have met at all. I think it's a situation where, Hukamuri has come in, but he hasn't pushed that far east yet. We haven't seen any signs of Tingana for the last sort of month, and there's been no indication that Hukamuri kind of came into contact with Tingana, on Djuma at least. There might have been a situation, maybe they met up on Little Gowrie, Hoffman's, that area, but definitely nothing that I've seen of tracks or anything like that on Djuma. So I don't think so. I think Tingana's been kind of hiding out down on the sort of southeastern corner of Djuma and into Chitwa and Little Gowrie area, whereas Hukamuri's been mostly to the west. It's only now in the last 2 days that we've seen him pushing right up past the lodge and kind of in further and further to the east. So for now, I don't think so, but I could be wrong. At the end of the day, you never know what leopards get up to in the middle of the night. We don't follow them enough through the night to know their exact movements, but I don't think so. But before the sort of incursions that Hukamuri started making into Djuma, when Tingana kind of started to disappear, he was mostly seen in the west. In fact, every single day there was an update from him around Arathusa, Sumamili, those areas. And so I don't think that he came this way without anybody noticing, all the way to where Chitwa is to go and fight with Tingana and then come all the way back this side. I just don't see it happening. But you never know, like I say. I mean, it is possible, you can never rule it out. But in my mind, I just don't think it would be a feasible situation. Okay, so nothing comes out here either. I don't know where this male went. He's done a proper disappearing act from the most open, softest sandy roads that we've got out here, which is very strange. We're going to have to maybe just do some wider loops and see if we can pick up his tracks away from these water points, because all these water points look as though a million impalas have drank at them, and so that means that there really isn't anything but impala tracks all over the place. We also need a situation where we need to get tracks that are a little fresher than what we started following, because those tracks from 8 o'clock last night certainly aren't going to get us to where we need to find him. We know that this male can move a lot, given that last night, or the night before, he was seen at the dam camp. That morning he was then found near Simambili Lodge, and then last night he was back here again. So he can move seriously big distances, and that means that we need to just try and maybe widen our search area a little bit, just to try and find slightly fresher tracks than what I was following to start with. So I believe Ali has found a bird that I know one or two of you absolutely love, and its face can change colors, which is very interesting.
We have found a bird indeed. One of my favorite eagles, actually. Well, not an eagle, a harrier hawk. That's the proper name. Used to be known as a gymnogene. Very beautiful bird to come across, and we don't get to see it all that often, so it's always cool to catch up with them. It was actually VM who spotted it, because ironically enough, the way that we sit in the car, because I'm lower, there is a tree in front of us, and I cannot see it from here, from the angle that we're looking at. So actually, the only way for me to look at it is through the presenter monitor, which VM will use to show me what we're actually seeing on camera. How's that? Now you see it's all fluffed up, and it's funny that it's being fluffed up like that, because normally birds do it when they're trying to just grab some heat from the air and just keep themselves warm. But like we said earlier, it's not that cold this morning, so I wonder if it's just got a bit of a wrong temperature going on, as I do often. And a little bit earlier on, it was actually regurgitating some food. So perhaps something that it had eaten before, a few bones or perhaps even feathers, and then just regurgitated it and let it drop onto the ground. Yeah, we saw you. Now there's a squirrel alarming in the distance as well. So I'm not too sure. It's still far. I think what we're going to do is perhaps leave this beautiful harrier hawk here to its day. I think you're getting interested in flying away. And we're going to go follow up on that squirrel that's busy alarming and making a bit of a noise. There's this particular area where we're in. It's not too far from where Thandi was last seen. So who knows, perhaps there is a predator lurking around in the area, perhaps not. But it's always worth checking, especially this morning where it seems like all of the cats are trying to give us the slip. That Hukumuri male seems to be a bit of a missioning cat, so seems like Tristan hasn't had the best time trying to follow him. You are looking so fluffy. Alright, let's head on to where we can hear that squirrel, try and find it, see if there's anything else that might be out there that looks the form of a predator but without feathers or without scales. Let's see if maybe the squirrel can point us to a mammal that it could be afraid of. Now all we have to do is try and find a tiny squirrel, which is about this big, going only by what we can hear, and try to see where it's looking at, so that then we can start looking into that direction to then try and figure out where it is that it's alarming for. Because they will do it for example, if the squirrel could see the harrier hawk, it would definitely be alarming at it. It could also be seeing a smaller cat. It could see a snake, or it could be seeing a lion or a leopard. Now, I want to try, I think it sounded further ahead. Let's see. I'm just going to drive a little bit further ahead and perhaps try and listen out again from there, see if we can hear the squirrel once more. Back. And we go. Whoop. Who are you? Let's see properly with binoculars. Looks like a pale version of a Wahlberg's. making a call. This could be what the squirrel was actually looking at. Ah, there's stew. Alright, we are going to stay with this predator, but in the meantime, seems like Tristan has found another one that also has spots. Now yours?
I have indeed, and it's not the one that you're thinking of. It is another predator, but it is one that I haven't spent much time with recently. So, as you can see meandering up the road is two of our hyena friends and from our clan. And like I say, I haven't seen hyenas in so many days that it's quite a nice surprise to see the two of them just meandering down the road. I don't know where they're off to, but we're certainly going to follow them for a while just to see where they go. It looks like, I mean, it's very difficult to tell who's who at the moment. We've seen them from quite far away, and we're just slowly creeping up so that they don't end up running off the road and changing direction, which is what it looks like the front one might be doing. But they are heading up towards Aubrey's Road, so I want to just see if maybe they're going back to that other den site that was being used for a while, and see whether or not they're actually heading there and if they are denning. But it looks to me like two boys, so I don't think they're going to a den site. I think they're just marauding around and just seeing what's going on. In fact, the front one even looks like it could be in Djuma, given it looks a lot smaller and fluffier than the one at the back here. But they've cut off south now, which is away from where that Aubrey's den was, so let's just see where they go. Now, when we came around this side to look for any signs of our leopard tracks, and we saw very, very fresh hyena tracks on top of all the vehicle tracks, I thought I'd just kind of follow and just see where they go. And whenever you see tracks for multiple hyenas, it's always worth just double checking and having a little look. And so it was a nice surprise to see them kind of waddling down the road. Now, like I say, I'm not 100% sure which of our hyenas we've got here. The other one went to the left, somewhere in this section. Just stop here and see if the other one comes back out. Also, it'll be a much more stable shot than me driving. But typical of these guys, just kind of going down the road. Oh, there we go, there comes the other one. No, it's definitely not in Djuma in front. That's a much bigger hyena now that we've gotten a bit closer. It just looked quite fluffy from afar. But it is definitely not in Djuma at all. So I would hazard a guess that this back one is a boy, and then the front one, it's difficult to say. We're not really close enough, but could be another male. I don't know. It's difficult with these male hyenas at the moment because there's a group of them that kind of goes all over the place, and you know, it's so little of the hyenas are being seen at the moment that it's really difficult to remember who's who and kind of get all their spot patterns together. So I've got to just kind of jog the memory, and while I try and figure out what's going on here, I'm going to send you back to Ali, who seems to be on a roll with the feathered friends that like to eat meat.
Well, I'm not sure if on a roll. Actually, VM and I have been looking at this eagle, and now we're not too sure it's actually a pale morph Wahlberg's. It does seem to have all the right characteristic. It's got the dark eye and the yellow around its beak, and the call sounds about right. But again, if it's a juvenile, it would be very easy for it to start confusing us. But I think we should probably stick to what we think it is, as normally our gut feeling tends to be right. Oop, there we go. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it is. Off you went. And that dark eye is the part that's confusing me. I think maybe this is one of the occasions, although it looks more hokey than anything else, doesn't it? I think this is one of the it's going to end up being one of the homework assignments, self-assigned homework assignments. I'm going to go back and check the screenshots and then check properly on my bird book, which I forgot this morning. I think Tristan took it from me, so I'm going to blame him for that. And then probably try and figure out exactly what it is. It's coming back. What you doing up there in the tree? How's that for crazy camouflage? Do you have a nest there? Are you going to raid a nest? Right, I think it is trying to to get something from around there. But if I can, I'll show you now as to why I think it could be this one. Although the colors now that it's there and not against the sun don't look right. What are you doing up there? See, it's struggling because the tree that it's on top of, it's got a lot of little thorns. It's on an acacia. So I think it's trying to get probably down there to the bottom. And it's got to tread very carefully, as might get all its wings tangled up, might hurt its feet going down because of all the knobs on the bark of the tree. But I think it might actually be trying to raid a nest. Where are you going? Interesting. You see how they have to tread very carefully when they go on top of a tree, or when they go amongst the branches of the tree, just to make sure that they don't hurt themselves. It's very, very, I think it's jumped all the way up. We're actually getting a bit of rain now. That is quite strange. Right, just to show you guys as to why we think it could be this one. So you see a pale morph, but now that we've looked at it in a different light, it doesn't seem as white as I initially thought. So my first thought was that, okay, this will not open up. But because it had a dark body and a white neck, and then if you can see there, part of the beak was yellow, and then it's got that dark ring around its eye. That was the reason behind my thinking as to why it could have been a pale morph Wahlberg's eagle. But now I'm not too sure, because as it went into the tree, it started looking a bit more brownish. Almost looks like some sort of hog. So I will have to see this in more detail with a book, and not probably up an app of my phone. I think that'll be the way. Now, we haven't heard that squirrel again, but I am going to try and get a little bit further down the road, see if we can find it again. In the meantime, let's go back to Tristan, who's still enjoying the company of the hyenas this morning.
I am indeed. Now, their little spotty bums are disappearing into a thicket now. They've just gone round the corner. Hold on, Sense. Let me try and get forward for you, bud. Let's try and see if we can see them here. If I get a little bit. I'm interested to follow where they go, so I'm going to just follow them through. Oof, that's going to be not ideal. Let's just go around a little bit further. There we go. Should be fine. So, I'm interested to see where they're heading. It looks like they might even be heading towards sort of Simbambili, Arethusa. They kind of cut through this section here, which will take us pretty much onto Triple M. We've got one more road to cross over, and then we're on Triple M from that side. So, I'm interested to see heading in that direction, as if maybe these are not from the Djuma clan. Maybe these are the Elephant Plains members, or the clan from Elephant Plains. Difficult to say. I can see one is in front of us, so let's try and get through to that one quickly. The other one should come shortly. They kind of split up for 2 seconds, and now they seem to be kind of coming back together again. There it is. And the problem with hyenas is they move so fast when they go through these thickets, and it sort of makes it quite difficult to kind of keep up with them. Now, Robin, you're wondering, why do hyena cubs sometimes kill their siblings? Well, it's normally a dominance thing, so you'll find a situation where, you know, if it's a female hyena, she might kill a little male that's born in the same litter as she is, and so that's just part of dominance displays. Sometimes it's even not from the same litter. It's a situation where it's a different litter, and they kill the little one because it's a lower ranking female is the mom. Now this one has just all of a sudden started to run, so let's just try and get across here where it's a bit more open. It's making life quite difficult, these hyenas. It's like following wild dogs this morning. There we go. It's just bounding along, going off in a northerly direction now. So interesting kind of change in directions all the time. They were walking slowly north, and then they went south, and now they went west and then north, and I don't think really they know where they're going at the moment, although they look like they do. Kind of like you see the nose down, and then they just kind of waddle along, and it seems as though they're heading straight to Simbambili. Across that little thicket is into Simbambili and away from where we are. So interesting behavior, and like I say, don't know if they are in fact part of our normal clan, or if this is actually a part of the Elephant Plains clan. It does sometimes happen that those Elephant Plains members do drift on to the side. So interesting to see. Maybe some of you can ID them and let me know exactly which clan they belong to. So while we sit and kind of just debate where we're going to go with these hyenas and whether or not we're going to be able to keep them, let's send you back all the way to the Maasai Mara and to James Henry, who's got two siblings that surely won't kill one another.
Much debating about where the hyenas come from. I must say, I think the lack of hyenas we've had there of late at Djuma has been somewhat sad, because we did used to spend a great deal of time with hyenas there. Ralph has rectified that problem this end and has spent, well, I'd say a bit of 5 months sitting at the hyena den that is here. Those are not hyenas you're looking at, if you're wondering why I'm talking about hyenas. Those are elephants, in fact. And you can tell that they're elephants from their colour. That's the most obvious feature that makes them look like elephants. Of course, being fairly sarcastic, I'm assuming that most people watching the stream will know that that is an elephant. It's always interesting when you come back here or go back to Djuma to compare the differences in the morphology of the animals, their different shapes. And there's no question to me that the elephants up here have got a different shape from the ones down in the Kruger. They just seem more angular here. They've got more sort of corners on them. The head seems to have 3 or 4 corners on the forehead. The shoulders that you can see there sticking up the back just seem to be that much sharper. Perhaps it's just a slightly smaller covering of flesh, although why that should be the case I'm not sure. Although at this time of the year, of course, out here, they're not supping on the fruits of marulas like they are down in South Africa right now. It is a gorgeous day. 2 species of dove calling. We've got the old Cape turtle dove or ringneck dove. And then if you listen very carefully, you can hear in the background a red-eyed dove going boop, 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 boop. Gosh, it's wonderful. Let's just go a little bit further around the corner here. This is a really nice herd of elephants, and they're feeding in this little drainage system. And I think they're going to pop out, so I think we'll get a nice view here. I believe it's quite rainy at Djuma. It doesn't look like there's going to be any rain here, but interestingly, apparently the long rains, in other words the really heavy rain season here, should begin sometime in March, I'm told. And how the rain could possibly get any heavier than it has been here, I'm not really sure. Yes, they're coming out now, and you will see what I mean when we point the camera at this cow. You will see what I mean by how angular they are in comparison to the Kruger variety. Let me just level out a bit for Archie. There we go. Is that right, Arch? There we go. You see what I mean? Much sharper forehead. Backside seems to be less round, much more triangular. And this particular cow, of course, has got no tusks. And I think Jamie actually saw this herd yesterday evening. She commented on the lack of tusks. Scarlett, we often get asked this, especially when we're on foot with elephants, often asked how good is an elephant's eyesight, and you're asking particularly around about night time. Scarlett, I think that their eyesight's about as good as ours, probably slightly, maybe not quite as good. So like a slightly myopic human being, their ability to see in the dark, I would imagine, is probably slightly better than ours. I don't think they see the same amount of colour that we do, and can't see any reason why they should need to. And so I think you'll find that because they see in less colour, they have fewer cones in their eyes for colour seeing, and therefore they probably have a greater number of rods, which probably allows them to see slightly better in the dark. There are buffalo running over there, Archie. It's straight into the sun. No, it's okay. I think they are not. They don't seem to be in a panic, but there is the odd grunt, and I was wondering if perhaps one of them wasn't being savaged by a lion. But maybe it was just some youngsters having a bit of a fight, or a play, a morning frolic. You just hear them going to each other. I'm glad that people don't do that to me in the morning. I think it would be rather distressing to walk into the final control and have Rebecca or Faith go in the manner of a buffalo. It would be a really unpleasant way to greet somebody. Although I will tell you, sometimes it does happen. There we go, I'm getting it now out of the final control. Lovely sound. That's not a picture you'll be able to get anywhere. I mean the buffalo, not the sound of Rebecca belching like a buffalo. Alright, let's go down towards those beefaloes, I think. Bekisha, an almost impossible question to answer, but one of the most delightful topics to talk about, I think. You say, what emotions do elephants have that humans have? I don't know, and no one knows for sure. And it's a debate that a lot of people will have, and a lot of people will talk about, and some people will err to the sort of side of hard science, where of course it's very difficult to prove any kind of emotion, isn't it? But anybody who's ever owned a dog or a cat knows that they have a range of emotions that they feel. They feel depressed sometimes, they feel happy sometimes. At the very least, you can tell when a dog is happy, when it's excited. Now, elephants have a very complicated social structure, and it seems that the more complicated the social structure is, the more closely their intelligence, if you like, resembles our own. And I think with that comes a greater similarity to the emotional content that we have in our own makeup. And so I think that they feel sadness. We know that they mourn their dead by placing the bones of dead elephants on their heads and standing very quietly around the carcasses of dead elephants. We think that they can feel some range of happiness. Let's just have a last look at this elephant here. But it's very difficult to say. Do they feel anxiety? I'm sure they do. They certainly give the impression of feeling anxiety, and when their temporal glands stream, they give the impression of feeling stress. There's another angular cow standing across there. And so I think you'll find that they probably exhibit and display a range of emotions and feel a range of emotions that we will never really truly understand, because it's impossible to ask an elephant how you are feeling today. The other thing, of course, the thing with human beings is that we are very expressive. It's very easy to tell if a human being is feeling something or feeling different. And in fact, we are what we call sort of natural-born psychologists. And we're able to infer the emotional state of other human beings simply by looking at each other's faces. And because we've evolved like that, we take our cues from looking at other people's faces, so we can tell if somebody's angry, happy, sad, depressed, miserable, murderous, just by looking at their faces. And so we look for that in other animals. We tend to look for the same signs as we'd see in ourselves in other animals, which of course is crazy, because most other animals are unable to show anything like the range of facial expressions that we can. And so that elephant there could be feeling a deep sense of depression. She could be feeling a deep sense of excitement for the coming weekend. Obviously, she doesn't know it's a weekend, I don't think. She could be feeling sadness at the loss of a loved one, or worry at the imminent demise of an aged one, or maybe she's worried about her own age. Maybe she's feeling depressed at the season, or concerned about whether or not there'll be enough water to drink over the coming months. Who knows? It's impossible for us to tell, but it's really interesting to speculate, I think. I've just, in fact, bought a book by my latest hero in the field of human or animal emotions, and that's that chap Robert Sapolsky, whose book I told you about, the primates memoir. And I've just bought a book by him called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, or Do Zebras Get Ulcers? And it's about animal emotions and animal stress. And so I shall keep you posted as I go. It is 500 pages long, and I don't think it's very light reading, so I'll keep you posted as I go. Chris, I'm afraid I missed your question. Let's have it again while we look down towards... No, they're the buffalo. Let's have a look down towards them, if you don't mind, Arch. Oh, right. Rebecca says, is this pregnant elephant? I think she means, is the elephant pregnant? This is as I've told Archie not to take his camera away from the elephant. I think that elephant could be pregnant, yes. I think she has got quite a fat belly, quite a distended one side, so she could be, yes. Ooh, some storks. Look like woolly-necked storks, as far as I can tell. Flying over the beefies. No, there are definitely no lions in amongst that lot of beefies. This reminds me of when I was on silent safari with... Who was it? I think it was with Craig. We did that silent memorial drive for Steve Fitzgerald, and I think we did another one as well where we were just silent. That's right. And we were unable to tell each other what we had seen, and Craig spotted lions miles away, and he was trying to do this complicated sort of charade behind without letting anyone know. I'm not sure why I was reminded about that. Anyway, let's go back across to South Africa. Ali has managed to find what we have been talking about, and I imagine she will have some very interesting insights. Being an emotional person of Latin descent, she will tell you what emotions animals feel.
We do have some interesting ones, but I think for now, let's just look at the elephants that are just showing signs of tranquility as an emotion. Although I must say the two boys at the back were actually having a bit of a play fight going on. And it's interesting. I think probably elephants are some of the creatures that we think exhibit the most emotion, or the ones that we can relate to the most. And I know there have been extensive studies done on the matter just to try and see. I think it's always that curiosity. Do animals feel the same way as we do? Do they not? Do they feel at all? I think it's been quite interesting how science has been changing their perspective in the last few years. There we go. You hear that? It's very interesting sometimes when they start fighting. You can hear their tusks banging against each other, and it makes a very unique noise. I don't know, it's a very nice noise. Come, boys. Now this is just play fighting. As you can see, the boy on the left is smaller, definitely smaller than the one on the right. But it's, however, a good way to... There we go. You hear that? Are you going to do it again? So it's not fully unaggressive fighting, but as they get older, they will have to carry on practicing for the time where they actually have to start earning their rights, or their mating rights with in a specific area with other herds. James, you're wondering if some elephants don't grow tusks at all. Yes, they do. It's a genetic condition. It's more a recessive gene than anything else, but it does happen. It does occur that you'll see elephants without tusks, and sometimes also elephants with just one tusk. Up to an extent, it can impair their ability to either feed or perhaps if they're males to successfully fight for their mating rights. However, it doesn't seem to be a factor that's going to negatively impact them in a way that they cannot recover from, if I can express it that way. Now, in terms of genetics, also the size of the tusks is determined by their parents and their genes. So elephants with smaller tusks, you can say that probably their parents didn't have the bigger tusks around, whereas the genetic gene for the bigger tusk is passed down also from generations and generations. Now, all of these elephants are preying shy. We had them all around us a little while ago, and they're actually sort of getting in the way of our lion tracking. Now, we've had lion tracks going all the way up on this road, heading towards roughly where the buffalo were, but then all of a sudden the elephant herd was around. Oh, there we go. Little doves also. Ringneck doves getting in the way of our tracking. But of course, with the elephants around, it's not safe to go walk around and try and figure out where these lion tracks have gone. So I think what we're going to do is just go a little bit forward. Perhaps maybe what happened was that the lions were walking on the road, they saw the elephants, decided to move off, and then they'll come back in. Because like I said yesterday, we're still on the way to where the buffaloes and Tingana were seen yesterday. So hopefully we'll be able to find some more clues as what was happening throughout the night. It almost seemed like there were some more tracks here, but I think the Ellie tracks, as you can imagine, being a very big round track, squashes everything else that there is. Interesting. Lots of elephants all around here. Let me see if maybe we go slightly forward, if we'll be able to get ourselves another view. What are these tracks? No, these are not. I think it's going to be a tricky one, as the elephants are all amongst the trees and in the long grass of this particular area. But perhaps let's try nonetheless. There's a nice view of another youngster. And it is funny, it seems like they've all been coming from water, as you can see that very funny straight line on their backs as to where they've been immersed in the water or up to where they've actually gotten themselves wet. Hello, girl. Beautiful. Gary, you're wondering how many kilometers will an elephant travel in one day? Well, it just depends on what time of the year it is, I would say. So if they can find a lot of water and a lot of food all around where they are, for example, now in the summer, I don't think they have to walk far. I would just say maybe about 5, 6, 10 kilometers a day. Whereas in drier areas where they have to walk very large distances to find water and probably also food, I wouldn't be surprised if they walked, 40, 30 kilometers a day, probably even more than that, as it is a well-known fact that before us humans got involved and put up fences and political boundaries or not ever, but everywhere, that the elephants all the way from South Africa used to go all the way up to Kenya, and there used to be quite a great migration of elephants going from one place to the other, just in terms of water availability as well. You're looking very pregnant, girl. I'm sure being so heavy she would prefer to walk a little bit less, and lucky for her, at this time of the year, she doesn't have to move all that much to find everything that she wants to eat or everything she might be craving as a pregnant lady, and to drink some water. Chitty Chatty Meg, you're wondering if an elephant with large tusk, if he's seen as a more dominant male. It can definitely be the case, especially in a particular area if he's the one with the biggest tusks. As the bigger tusks, they help him establish his dominance amongst the other males around the area, because he can push them, probably bully them around a little bit more than males that perhaps have that have tusks that are a little less big. But this is part of the reason why musk then in elephants comes into play. A lot of the times what will happen with the elephants is that, my mic is falling. A lot of the times what will happen is even smaller creatures that are or smaller creatures, more smaller elephants that are in must are able to fend off or to scare away bigger elephants that are not in must, probably bigger in size with bigger tusks, just because they have this added testosterone. So it's a good way of nature to try and make sure that the genes of all the different creatures can have a chance to be propagated. But yes, normally males with bigger tusks, they tend to be slightly bigger and they tend to be considered a lot more dominant in a particular group, in a particular home range, that perhaps males that are a lot smaller with smaller tusks as well. I have seen, however, very big males with small tusks that can be very grumpy and bully all of the bigger males around. So I think it's also part of where the personality comes into play, is their specific personality. Now it seems like the Ellies have all decided to go behind the bushes, which is quite unfortunate. None of them are coming around, so I think we're going to carry on our road just to see if we can find some more lion tracks. Let's see. Letitia, you're actually wondering, if, because of poaching, if there's going to be a propagation of the gene of elephants with shorter tusks. Yes, it's part of the reason why we don't see such great big tuskers as we used to do maybe 50 years ago, and it's because obviously animals with larger tusks are more prized in the black market, than animals with smaller tusks. So it's been a studying phenomenon that actually these gene hasn't been able to carry on because of the poaching impact that it's had on certain animals of the population, therefore making it easier for animals that can be less bigger or less dominant to actually propagate their genes, especially the ones without tusks, because now we can see in certain areas we can see them a little bit more than what we used to, perhaps 50, 100 years ago. And it's why some of the tuskers now are being so protected and looked after, because it's a gene that it's not as common as perhaps as it used to be a while ago. I think I got excited, but it was actually a hyena. Alright, I'm going to carry on down this road, see if perhaps the lion tracks come back onto the road. But while I do that, let's go back to James, who I believe is still enjoying the company of some of the buffalo up in the Mara. Let's go over.
Hopefully the lion tracks will indeed come back, as these buffalo have come back to us. They are all over the place here. It is continuously astounding to me how many animals there are around the Maasai Mara. And although people will tell you that, this isn't migration season, well, they'd be correct, it isn't migration season. Despite the lack of wildebeest, there are many, many, many other kinds of animals. Now, just to continue our little discussion on animal emotions and that sort of thing, Rebecca said to me, do I think that some elephants just never like each other in the same way that some human beings don't like each other? I think that there must be elephants that just don't like each other. In the same way that there are with baboons. We know that some baboons get on better with each other than other baboons. We don't really know why that is the case. I'm not sure why it shouldn't be the case with things like elephants and indeed with buffalo. So I'm going to go, yes, I think sometimes they just don't like each other. They just smell wrong sometimes, Some people smell wrong to you. And I think you were talking about recessive and dominant genes, were you? Rebecca, tell me again what that discussion was about. It sounds quite interesting. I think it was regarding tusks and things. Ooh, let's see if we can spot this gorgeous bird. Right, okay. So you were talking about elephants with no tusks and that being a recessive gene, and whether or not that would become dominant over time and the big tusks would become recessive. That doesn't actually work. It doesn't work like that. So that was a rufous-naped lark as far as I can remember it. And then there's another little bird just behind this buffalo that's staring at us, Arch. In fact, there are a few of them. They're flying off. I think they were canaries. Anyway, a recessive gene is a gene that can never be dominant. Here we're now being charged by this vicious buffalo. We're not really. What's the best way to describe it? Albinism, or let's go with red hair. I think red hair is a recessive gene, and unless it can never become a dominant gene, if there is a copy of another hair color in the makeup of the human being, then red hair will never be expressed. So let's pretend that red hair is just a standard issue, simple recessive gene. So in order for, you get one chromosome, one part of your chromosome from your mother and one from your father. So you get one copy of each gene from your mother and one from your father. If one of those is not red, then you cannot have a child with red hair. So many of us will carry the gene for red hair, but will never express it because you have to have two copies of it for it to express. In other words, it's recessive. Maybe some can't. Those especially, I think, who are engaged in the lamentable activity of smoking, for example, I think will really struggle to smell or pick up anything from their noses, any kind of signals, hormonal signals from other human beings. But I do think that those who don't can smell their families, certainly. Thank you very much. Thank you, Archie, for that. Shall we move on? Waiting for Rebecca's next attack. She says she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to argue with me anymore because she doesn't have a voice on the show, and so now we must link across to Ali, who's, I imagine she's probably got some very interesting perspectives on this.
I don't know if I want to get involved in this fight between Rebecca and James. Although we could always the girls gang up on James, and then I think he would have no say whatsoever in this whole fight. I'm not too sure. I would assume that, well, perhaps creatures like Tingana, he does seem to know his offspring, and I don't know. I think perhaps certain animals can, but I don't think men, as like in human people, that they'll be able to sniff out their own offspring and find out and know that they are theirs. Not too sure how that would work. I think we would go more... Oh, a lion! I got such a fright! Hello, boy! We have been looking for you the whole morning. I'm sorry, I think we both got a fright. We didn't know that he was going to be here. Hello, have you been following all the buffalo? So, okay, seems like Buffelshoek Dam is definitely the place to come and be around. Oh. Alright, I just need to call this on the radio because I know Tristan's also in the area. Just located one Madorangala at Buffelshoek Dam. Alright, there we go. Now you're also panting heavily and your stomach looks quite full, so I think you've had quite a nice meal. Now, it would be interesting to find out from you if you could tell us, can you smell your offspring, or are you able to recognize? Probably not. Or probably yes, as you guys tend to kill all of the offspring that are not your own. Right, more done with that conversation. Where's the rest of your pride? It's interesting because the tracks for the buffalo herd, the big buffalo herd that were here, they led out of Djuma, and then it seems like they were heading straight on to Buffelshoek, but we haven't been able to find any more lion tracks, and we carried on driving, trying to follow up on the tracks because, like we said earlier, lots of elephants around, and they went out, and we decided to come to Buffelshoek Dam just to see if we could perhaps follow up on Tingana and where he was lying yesterday, but he doesn't seem to be here. But again, this wonderful boy seems to be here. And judging by how hard he's panting, I reckon he's been walking for quite a bit of this morning. So maybe what happened is that he came walking all the way from the southern part of the property and had to dodge and avoid multiple elephant herds to get onto this area. That is a very interesting close-up. I cannot say that I find it too sexy. How's that? And he's got that look, definitely that look as in like, oh my goodness, I'm tired. Almost the same way as Tingana did yesterday, that he's been walking for quite a while and he's tired, doesn't really want to carry on moving all that much. But it's interesting. I'm assuming that perhaps the rest of the pride is not too far from here. As yesterday, according to the reports that we got given by some of the rangers on the radio, was that actually it was, a bunch of females and then also a male. And we had tracks for a male yesterday morning, so could very well be that this has been the culprit of that walking around. Now you do seem to have a little bit of blood there on your paw, do you? Let's have a closer look. That was like an old injury, I would say. Just on there, and then the one at the back, it seems like maybe he's been licking it clean, because I see a lot of flies are going in there. Nothing really to be concerned about, but maybe he's got a new injury from, or well, actually looks already like an old injury, perhaps from hunting or fighting some of his brothers. Because if you compare it as to the rest of his coat, he doesn't seem to have any more of those anywhere else. I'm just going to stay quiet quickly so that you can actually hear him panting. You see, there is a lot of effort that's actually being put into cooling himself down. In typical lion fashion, he's got his head towards the sun, or not towards the breeze, and then he's just allowing everything to help him cool down. Now, thank you to all the viewers that helped identify this particular lion. Many of you are saying this is Nsuku. I still struggle a little bit to try and identify them, because every time that I start getting on track, then I go away for a while. And then it almost seems like they all become a little bit confused in my head again. So Nsuku is one of the lions of the dominant coalition of male lions that roams around this area, which is called the Birmingham Boys. Now, he's got a few more brothers, however, they do not seem to be around here, and it's an interesting show of that male lions, even within their coalitions, they don't spend all their time together. But funny enough, I also find that the Birminghams tend to spend quite a lot of time apart from one another, even amongst the brothers. So it's perhaps one of the reasons why they have to walk as much as they do, but they just seem to have different interests, and they are dominating quite a large area, so maybe their strategy is to divide and conquer. Hello, Fluffy Tail. You can see why it's a great toy for a little lion cub. Gemma, you're wondering if lions will ever go into the water to cool off. It's not common that they do so. However, I have seen lions do it in the past. There was a lioness in the southern part of the Sabi Sand. She was the Charleston female, and she developed a strange relationship with the Sand River, which was a very shallow running river. And we would often find her with the two cubs, or the two males that she was raising, just lying in the water when it was really hot. But it's not that common. In typical cat fashion, lions are not really in love with the water, and even when they go in, and when you see them, for example, in other areas like the Okavango Delta, when they have to get in and just to cross a channel, they start hissing at the water, also sometimes worried about what might be lurking in there. There's a big crocodile is also no match for a smaller lion. So it is strange if they do get in the water. Like I said, I have seen them do it in the past, but it's not a common occurrence. And I think what this lion is doing at the moment is probably something that is more common amongst lions, which is that he's actually in the shade. You see all around him, you can see towards the back, that's where there's a bit of light coming through it, and potentially as the sun starts getting higher and it starts becoming hotter, he will either go straight underneath the bush or find another nice area where he can lie in without having to worry too much. What a surprise it was to see you. Now, I think maybe, Vildy, what do you think? If we go a little bit further, and then maybe we'll be able to... Oh, now you've turned this way. Hi. Now, he's got an old injury on top of his head, as you can see when he moved his head onto this area, onto our side. Oh, second lion. Well, it's a morning of surprises. Hi. There's a greeting ceremony. Not too nice what you're doing right now. So normally when lions are part of the same coalition or of the same group, they do what this one did in the beginning, not the bottom part where he just put his tail. Oh my goodness. his tail on his brother's face. Normally they rub their heads against each other just to reassure themselves that they're all good, that they're part of the same team, and then there's nothing bad really going on, just as a way of strengthening their bonds. Did you see the other lion when we arrived? Yeah, I think maybe he's just arrived. Yeah, we nearly... Well, what a surprise. Good, now there's 2. So we're missing another 2, and perhaps we'll have all of the Birminghams around. Who knows? It's a morning of surprises, so maybe they'll they'll pop fairly soon. Maybe one of them is below, down in the water. Who knows? But what is interesting as well is if you see them both, you can tell that they haven't been feeding the same quantity. So Nsuku looks a lot fuller. So if you see at his stomach, he's looking a lot bigger, especially around his stomach area, very, very fat. Whereas I'm not too sure who it is on the left. So if you guys can help me, if you manage to have a good look, I wouldn't know. What do you think it is? Clues? But he is definitely looking a lot skinnier than his brother. His stomach is not as full, and I think maybe he's actually either been walking a little bit less. You see that stomach? Not as full as the one of Nsuku. So sometimes even when lions make a kill, there's a lot of fighting. They don't willingly share all the kill. And even if they manage to kill, a smaller thing like an impala and it will fill them up nicely, they're not too happy with that. Alright, seems like Tristan has got some disappearing tracks, and I wonder what they're from, so let's go over to him and find out if perhaps those are more lion tracks.
They are indeed. So it's the Nkuhuma Pride tracks that I'm sure these 2 males are following, because these tracks come pretty much from Buffelshoek Dam and then onto the Buffelshoek cut line and cross over. And so there's tracks for the females, the sub-adults, and even the little cub is here as well. So they're all in this little section. It doesn't look like all the females are here. It looks like maybe only 3 of them, judging from the tracks, and maybe 1 male that's with them. You can see they've come over the road like that. And so they've disappeared north into Buffelshoek, as has Hukamuri as well. We've found his tracks too, going all the way north up Mvubu Road, and then straight into Buffelshoek around Tambuti Dam. So I'm not winning this morning when it comes to our tracking of our cats. Everything seems to be just disappearing off to the north, and it seems as though Buffelshoek Dam has been the place to be in the last 24 hours. Between Tingana and the lions, everybody seems to be hanging out there, which is very cool. Anyway, I'm going to try and see what else we can find. I don't think these Nkuhumas come back, because I've done Buffelshoek cut line all the way from Sydney's Dam, and I didn't find any tracks for them coming back onto our side. But you never know. Maybe I missed something somewhere, although with the Pride of Lions, it's very difficult to miss tracks. So it's a little bit of a sort of conundrum now. Where do I head? Because I'm not quite sure where Tingana's gone, and with these lions coming this way, I'm hoping it's pushed him a little bit further south. So I think I'm going to jump onto Hyena Road and head southwards. That's what I think my plan is going to be. I want to also check, there's a little water hole behind us here on the fire break, which is a good place to go and look in case these lions have turned and come back to our side. And so while I do that, I believe that James has got a bird of prey in a tree that is hiding away because Rebecca can't see what it is. And so you guys can all go and help James uncover the mystery of what this bird is.
It is so far away to see. I think it's an African hawk eagle. Yes, it is an African hawk eagle. You can see it's got a yellow eye. It's feathered all the way down to its yellow tootsies, and it's got blotches down the front. So we're looking at an African hawk eagle there, adult. And in fact, oh, there it is. Okay, I hadn't actually seen it with my naked eye. Archie and David found it for me. Let me see if I can show it to you on my telephone. Let me just wipe the screen of my telephone so that it does not have my... well, in fact, that's a horrible picture. I'll go to the South African version. Here you go. One moment, please, Rebecca. Please be patient. Thank you so much. There we go. Is that any good to you, Archie? Oh. We will try and fix this problem. There we are. That is the African hawk eagle, Aquila spilogaster. And I'm 99.99% sure that's what we're looking at there. Alright. Good. Thank you, chaps, for finding that for us. I was just daydreaming as I was driving along here. We're going down towards the Mara River. You can see some thick bushes up ahead. Just now going to drive out of the cloud of diesel I've just made. Right, apparently the lions are about to do what I was doing, to start daydreaming, so let's go back across to them now.
Well, it does seem like these two boys are daydreaming, or at least one of them is for sure. But Nsuku as well, he almost looks like he's not really quite here with us anymore. And yeah, because your belly is so full, you're probably feeling quite thirsty as well, don't you? But I think he is just preparing himself to lay down and then snooze off for a little while. Are you not? So it is quite interesting, because now we know that these two are here and the rest of the Nkuhuma pride has crossed into Buffelshoek, but it seems like the other two Birmingham boys were also, or the tracks were also with the pride heading onto that direction. So I wouldn't be surprised if these two boys are now trying to trail the pride and his two brothers, and hopefully, I would say probably tonight rather than sometime during the day, they would meet up with the rest of them. And of course, the Nkuhumas being such a big pride, they are relying on bigger food sources to try and sustain pretty much their whole pride and their little ones. So they will be following that buffalo herd, I'm sure, with no doubt with the idea of trying to bring one of them down, as a buffalo would be a very good meal that would be able to sustain them for a little while and make them all full. However, will they get that? I don't know. I just hope that if they do start hunting the buffalo, that they chase them back here onto our side where we can see them. But for now, I think it's very, very nice to be spending some time in the company of the lions. Going to the bush? Too hot for you? Oh. Well, if you ever wondered what lion's pee looked like, thank you, Vian, for that wonderful close-up. Gotta have a sense of humor, especially with nature. It seems like Conrad in MC is disgusted that he's peeing in his own feet. Well, lions are known for doing this kind of things, and sometimes they will even pee on top of each other. Look at that belly. He is definitely very full. I wonder what's in there. But shame, you can still hear him panting even with the racket that the babblers are making. Well, isn't this the typical lion look? Very fat lions underneath a bush, just asleep before, what time is it now? 7 o'clock. This is typical summertime though. I find that if it's the summertime, you will find lions. If you find them before 7, indeed, they might be up to something from 7:30 onwards. It's probably too hot for them to even want to attempt to move or do anything. Now, they've got a wonderful spot for the rest of the day. Like I say, if they get very, very hot, they can always go inside and, well, not inside, but underneath a bush and just rest there for the rest of the day. There's an elephant coming. I can just see its movement behind the tree. Now, an elephant would definitely, it's 2 elephants, ooh, a whole herd. Now, they would definitely chase the lions out of this place, especially if they want to come for a drink. Now, considering this is a herd with little ones, well, I think there's quite a strong possibility that the elephants are going to pick up on the fact that the lions are here, because they are not that far apart from one another. Now, they haven't spotted each other, and the lions have made no attempt of actually... Hello? Yeah, elephants are here. Uh-huh. You see how... Welcome everyone to this broadcast. We are here sitting very quietly with two male lions that have just been lazing about the whole day, and then herd of elephants just come through. My name is Ali and VM is on camera with me. You're more than welcome to post any questions or comments on the comment section below. Now, this particular coalition of lions, it's 4 of them, but we're only seeing 2, and they normally don't try their luck with elephants. We're having a bit of a standoff at the moment. The lions were fast asleep when the elephants arrived, and you can see the elephants are now starting to become very curious as to what's happening. They stopped going down towards the water as we are very close to a water hole, and now they're just staring at each other trying to see what's going on. Oh, there we go. I think the lion has had some sort of, or both of them, they've had previous experiences with elephants before, and elephants can be very, very aggressive when it comes to trying to chase off lions or other predators from their areas. There is in particular a vulnerable one, that tiny little baby elephant. He would be no match for one of these lions, and they could potentially try and get him. However, it is protected by the rest of the herd, and you see it was a very calm standoff for all of them. Just had one of the younger boys looking at the lions, and then the lions just decided to stand up and go. Probably because they've been walking for so long during the night, and probably because out of experience, as they do not want to get in the way. Paulina, you're wondering if the lions would attack them. Well, they could in certain instances, but I think in this particular case they decided to leave the elephants around and then just go back, and they retreated a few steps away from the rest of the herd. Now, normally when elephants are feeling threatened, they will come and trumpet and put them away. Joe, you're wondering if they eat elephants. In this particular area, they are not known for hunting elephants, but in other areas, yes, lions have been known to kill young elephants or injured elephants. Now you see the lions have moved away, and they've just decided to step away and avoid any sort of confrontation and just retreated to an area where they feel it's going to be a little bit safer. Now, the rest of the elephant herd is not too worried. It seems like everything is happening in between the two of us. So the rest of the herd has now decided to come down to the water for a drink, and there's still this young boy that's trying to fight them off. Josh, you're wondering if I'm scared of being in the sighting. Well, you've got to be cautious of what's playing around us, but you see the elephants weren't particularly aggressive. They just had a standoff with the lions. The lions moved away, and now the elephants are going down for a drink. So unless the lions decide to all of a sudden come back and ambush the elephants, which I doubt that they will do, we are perfectly safe standing where we are. At least for the time being. I'm sure you guys also weren't expecting the lions here this morning. None of us were. Now, this particular youngster, he's the one that actually stood up in front of the lions and, put his head up and tried to make himself look bigger and scare the lions off. And it seems like it worked, as the lions, they have then retreated and still in view of us, but they've just decided to go and lie further away into the bush, away from the rest of the herd. And now, because the lions have gone away, then the rest of the herd has decided to come down to the water, perhaps for a drink and perhaps even for a bath. You can hear them sucking up the water through their trunks. But you see, there's still a bit of unease lingering out here. They're not in the water, all of them, just yet. Liz, you're wondering how many elephants are here. Where that I can see, perhaps about 10. Yeah, about 10 elephants that I can count. There might be a few more hiding behind that haven't come into our view just yet. You see all the youngsters. These are the ones that have gone first straight into the water. And we've got the family protector. No, we are not lions. We're not going to eat you. Normally elephants do that, their head shake, just to try and intimidate whatever it is that is around them, and he's got to be very careful going down, as he might trip and fall. It was very steep over there. Now he's giving us a bit of a look, and there's the baby, the little baby. Right, I'm going to move and just allow the elephants to reposition themselves and come around here. And we're going to have one last view of the lions before we end this fantastic broadcast. Come on, car, you can do this. Alright, let's have one last look at the lions, who are very happy now in the shade sleeping. And you can see the commotion was averted. The lions just decided that it was a lot better to move away and give the water hole to the elephants so that the elephants could drink and just keep calm. Now, if you want to carry on watching and see how the rest of this action unfolds, you are more than welcome to Google Safari Live, and you can carry on watching from there, as we will be sticking with this lions and this elephant for the time further. Seems like everyone's pretty settled here for now, so while we try and reposition and perhaps get a better look of the elephants in the water, let's go over to James, who's got a bird that is fishing, I believe. No, it seems like the gremlins want to stick with us and the the lions and the elephants, so we apologize for that. We haven't been able to move, but what I think we're going to do is we're going to go onto the dam wall and then look at the elephants from the top, as it will be quite interesting if we manage to get a little view of the little one that is actually trying to drink. And it is quite funny because it's so small, it doesn't know how to use its trunk yet, and it's just going down on its front knees to be able to drink. Alright, seems like the little one has decided not to be there, so let's try again going back to James, see if we can see his beautiful bird that's fishing.
Now, there's spoonbills, man. We've got spoonbills as well. Far right-hand side.
Oh, on the right, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, the one, yeah, exactly.
Hello everybody. Sorry, there's a lot of confusion as to what's going on. I'm not sure if you even started our last segment with us. We're sitting in a little marsh where there are spoonbills, yellow-billed storks, grey herons, western great egret, as far as I can tell, and a sacred ibis. And the spoonbills are just doing their unique spoon-billed foraging at the moment. And I was just saying to Archie, I bet 3 weeks ago you couldn't have driven through here. And he's told me already one story of Steve getting very stuck. And that's not to cast any aspersions on Steve whatsoever. It's just to show how much it's dried out since, well, in very recent history actually. Now I'm just going to check exactly what the spoonbill's diet is, because we were just having a discussion on the car here about the different feeding strategies of the animals. They are normally eating, come on, surely you can tell me what they eat. Food, small fish and aquatic invertebrates, yeah. So they have very different feeding strategies, all of the birds here, and we were just discussing how the heron, which has now naturally disappeared around the side of a, I don't know what it is, I suppose a little tussock. Oh, no, not a tussock. What is the word I'm looking for? One of you is going to get it for me. Pile of earth with a sod? Would it be a sod? Yes, I guess it would. Past that sod of earth and grass. The heron is a patient waiter. It stands and it doesn't sort of have very active foraging, whereas the spoonbill with its unique bill is spending time sort of disturbing the water and using that bill to grab the little aquatic insects and fish that it will catch. And then you've got something like a stork, which moves through the water very purposely with its legs kind of kicking up and disturbing the mud. And it's got special sensors on its feet which will feel any kind of movement, and then the bill will snap down very accurately as to wherever that movement's come from. And then there was another one, the egret, which has a very similar feeding strategy to the heron, which is a largely wait and see, and then a very slow movement, so as not to disturb potential prey. Good. It's starting to heat up. Oh, the rather cliched sound of the African fish eagle in the background. It started off pretty chilly this morning, as it does here all the time. And I think we're now supposed to be in the middle of the hottest, driest part of the year here. I'm just going to try and get past this, what was a very sticky area, as much evidence of people and animals becoming mired in the mud. Alright, the elephants are back on the scene at Beefleshoek Dam. Let's go back across to them and find out if they're going to drink or fight with lions.
Well, it seems like they are loving the water. We've got one that's actually decided he doesn't care that it's not deep enough. He is going to be fully submerged in the water. Having a lot of fun. Elephants in water. I've always said that I really wanted to see elephants swimming at Beefleshoek Dam, and wish granted. Very happy for this, and even with some lions down in the scenery. I think they can also feel how hot it is, and just like the lion was panting, this is a way for the elephants to cool down in such a hot morning. It's not really, I would say it's more humid than actually hot, and perhaps that's why we've all been feeling the heat this morning. And as we know, the elephants are thick-skinned animals, so they rely on things like mud wallowing or coming into the water to cool their body temperature now. Catbrag, you're wondering if elephants get ticks. Yes, they do. They perhaps don't get as many ticks as some of the other creatures, but they also get ticks in between where their legs meet their bodies. Normally, where the skin is a little bit thinner, that's where you can see them. But they don't get it's believed that they don't get as many parasites as some of the other antelopes and some of the other creatures that we get in these areas. Partly because of their habits of constantly mud wallowing or putting and spraying themselves with dust and then rubbing themselves against tree to try and get rid of all the potential parasites that they have. I will never understand this tactic of most creatures to defecate and urinate in the water that they drink and and where they bath in, but I suppose it's all part of the wow, and it helps ferment the shores and everything else that might be around here. Somebody's having fun, spraying all the water around. Oh, even kicking. Who are you standing off to? No crocodiles in this water hole, so I think maybe he's just showing off with himself, I would assume, as young elephants do. Now, ear scratch. Well, there's a nice breeze that started to come, so I'm sure this is going to help the elephants cool down a little bit. And we've got one that seems to have a bit of a floppy ear. The ear has actually gone all the way. It's almost like it's gone forward, but now you crossed your head, so now we can see it. So you can see the ear. Whoop, there we go. Not entirely sure as what would cause the elephant's ear to head that way, but this is definitely not the first elephant that I have seen having an ear like that. Alright, seems like Tristan is also in luck with tusked animals, so let's go over to him and find out who he's looking at.
Today is not going well, everybody. Everything I'm trying to find just keeps disappearing on me, so we do have a warthog somewhere here. I'll hopefully be able to get it onto camera again. The road does bend around there. It is. I can see it, so it's fine. So it's just next to the road. But anyway, we've had a tough morning this morning. Like I say, we've tracked everything off Djuma. We've had many animals disappear on us, from hyenas to now this warthog male, who is actually probably one of the most relaxed warthogs I've seen on Djuma. He seems to be not too worried, although as I say that, he starts trotting away from us, which is fairly typical for the course of today. So there he goes, just over. And he had a little drink at one of the mud wallows and was fairly chilled and was having a bit of a feed. And then as soon as you guys came to us, he decided, no, I don't want to be in the limelight. I'm going to move off. But You can see very wary of what's going on. Now, we know it's a male because you can see he's got his extra set of warts on his face that are very pronounced, and even the ones around the eyes, and then, well, underneath his tail, it's very easy to see that that is a boy and not a girl, as he waddles off and gives us a really good show of exactly why. Thank you for that, Warthog. That's very kind of you. We've had quite a good morning, though, in terms of seeing strange and unusual things at mud wallows. I feel like maybe I should just keep going to mud wallows, because we had a big hippo that was sitting in the smallest little mud wallow. In fact, there wasn't even enough water to cover its legs, and it was kind of having a look around. And so I'm sure it's the Buffelshoek hippo that just didn't make it to Buffelshoek Dam last night, or maybe it came across the lines and decided, no, I'm not going to go back there just yet. So we had that, and then we had an Ellie that was mud bathing, but it seems as though, Ellie and Ellies, should I say, and lions have stolen the limelight. So our Ellie didn't get a look in for now, and also wasn't exactly the most relaxed elephant either. It also went running off into the thickets. So it's not been too bad. I mean, we've seen quite a few things this morning, and certainly seen more than enough tracks to make me go a bit moggy during the day, and I'll probably wake up at some point in the night with dreaming of leopard and lion tracks and how I've kind of failed miserably at finding what I was supposed to be finding. But anyway, it's okay. Like I say, it's the way it is. Right, now, talking about sort of nightmares, it seems as though Ali is having the absolute opposite in the last day, and she is still with her male lion, so let's send you back across to the beautiful Nsuku Nhenha.
Shame, Tristan. I'm sorry to hear that the cats are giving you a hard time, but I have no doubt that you perhaps will be able to find Tingana this morning. My hopes are on you. Now, this is what a very thirsty lion looks like. You can see all the saliva hanging. He's still panting. His stomach's still very full. And I'm sure he's craving a bit of a drink down at the dam. But while the elephants are there, I don't think he's going to try and his luck whatsoever. Definitely do not want to get close to a breeding herd of elephants, especially when there are such tiny little ones involved, as they can be very protective. And a swat from an elephant trunk, I'm sure it's not something to be considered lightly. He is, however, still managed to find a nice breezy spot, and you can see how his mane is almost blowing in the wind. Oh, now you're changing. What scent are you picking up now? Too hot. See, it's almost when they close their mouth, it's almost like they're thinking that perhaps they're not as hot as they really are, but then obviously it becomes very clear to them quickly that they are actually still overheating, hence why the mouth needs to be open. Oh, what are you guys looking at in the distance? I don't know if perhaps they heard the elephants that are down on the waterhole, but I cannot see anything from where we are that they could potentially be looking at. I wonder if this is not Nhenha. With such a big mane. Rebecca has managed to see a hole in his tongue, which I didn't quite see. Oh, look at that. Well spotted, Rebecca. So all the way from FC, she managed to see that the tongue has a bit of it missing. There we go. There on the side. And, well, he's broken canine. I would assume, Bex, that that's probably sometimes either when he was trying to feed off of something, it almost seems like the canine went through his own tongue. So it's almost like he bit himself. And then, a little piece came off. Because the other oh. I thought I heard a lion. No. It almost sounded like a lion contact calling. Would explain why they were facing that direction, but no, I don't think. Maybe it was their stomachs, and I assume it was a contact call. Going back to the tongue, it could very well be that he bit himself, or perhaps that a fight and feeding somebody else's canine went through his tongue. But he's definitely missing a little bit of a piece there. I don't think it's going to get in his way, and it seems completely healed, but that's a very interesting observation. Full of scars, these boys. Not easy being a male lion. Look at all the scars on his nose, not only from hunting, but sometimes also from trying to mate with the females and trying to seduce them. As we all know, that mating can be quite a painful affair for the females. So when they move, when they're done mating, the females normally roll onto their backs and then hit them in the face. So sometimes that's also where they get all of these scars. But I think it just makes him even look more handsome. And it's quite interesting because we have this ideal of male lions being this perfect creature with the beautiful mane, which they've got, but also perfect face, no scars, pink nose, whereas in reality we see it's actually quite different from that. Their noses tend to go darker and lots of scars all around their faces, their ears, their noses. Just shows that they've lived a very powerful, strong life out in the bush. Letitia, you're wondering if we can tell the health of a lion just by judging if its nose is wet or not, just like normal cats and dogs. I would suppose that you could tell it the same way. These lions don't seem to be particularly unhealthy. So there is another lion calling. I want to go into... Did you hear that?
Well, to me sounded like one of them.
I keep hearing it from the right. Seems like there might be another lion contact calling, and it could be why they're facing in that direction, and why... Sorry, I've just been trying to be quiet when you hear this kind of things, just to try and find out if perhaps we get lucky with viewing even more lions. So I wouldn't be surprised if another one of the males was here, although Tristan had the tracks going out. But lions also, they like to move, so it could be that one of them is coming back, and perhaps why the both of them now have got their heads up. As we know, their sense of hearing is far better than mine, so I'm sure they can hear things in the distance that probably we cannot. Now, going back to Letitia's question about their nose, I'm pretty sure that you can use the same characteristics to try and determine their overall health. I think they seem to have pretty wet noses. I don't think that they are particularly... Oh, yawning. Particularly dry, and it would be a good indication of how healthy they are. Are you going to go for a drink now that the elephant's left? Hello. You see, not bothered whatsoever. Beautiful. So he is still right here. Are you gonna go lie on the damn wall? Alright, let us move and see where he goes. Apologies while I move around. We're going to try and follow him around and see where he goes. Perhaps he'll lead us to some more lions, or he'll go down for a drink. But in the meantime, let's go over to James, who's got an animal with a very wet nose.
Is she talking about me or the hippo? I don't think that I've always got a wet nose, so I'm going to assume that she's talking about the hippopotamus. I always thought it was a bit of a legend that you can tell if a dog is healthy by its wet nose, but clearly it isn't, if all of you are talking about it. Hippos, I don't think you can judge their health by the wetness of their noses. I think it is largely to do with how fat they are. A massive pod of hippopotamus. We are sitting on the Mara River. For those of you who have just joined us, this is one of the interminable twists and turns that the Mara River takes, and will eventually form part of an oxbow lake, I'm sure. But what is so fascinating is that the last time I was here, this river was a roaring torrent. And when was that? That must have been at the end of October. And now it is really just a trickling stream. Now, Ali, you're wondering how long a hippopotamus can stay underwater before it needs air. Well, they will tell you up to 8 minutes. I've never seen a hippo stay anything like that long under the water. The longest I've ever seen one under the water is probably about 2 minutes. So I'm not sure if they can extend it up to 8 minutes or not. They will also tell you that the average is about 1 minute. It isn't. It's definitely less than that. I think you'll find that most of them will pop their heads down and every 30 seconds or so just kind of float to the surface and then go back down again. A little bit like a whale that doesn't hold its breath for quite as long. So I was saying the river has got a lot lower, and it is just a trickle now, and increasingly these pods of hippo are going to concentrate in the pools, and the pools will form where the river bends around the corner. There's an alarm calling antelope behind us. Alright, I'm going to go and see if I can't find whatever that alarm calling was. Beautiful pictures of the spoon there. Ali's lions are on the move.
Definitely both of them on the move, and now that they have crossed the dam wall, I wonder if they're not going to try and follow the rest of the pride, as it did sound like there were some more lions calling in the distance, and I wonder if they perhaps cannot hear the rest of the Nkahumas and perhaps the other two missing boys, and that's why they're heading straight onto there. Now, there were some elephants still drinking down at the bottom of the dam, so I think they took the safe route and just try and avoid them entirely, and carried on moving in higher ground where the elephants wouldn't have an easy chance of getting them. You're still panting, looking quite uncomfortable walking through. Now, I'm going to let him get a little bit ahead of us before we try to surpass them, as I think they're going to go onto a game path to then try and head straight onto the cut line, because if they are going to carry on in that direction, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually found the same route out that they were the rest of the pride used to cross onto Buffalo's Hook, probably by chasing the rest of the buffalo. Oh, you seem to be going in a bit of an odd direction. That's definitely not what your brother went to. Where are you going? So I'm a bit wary of this area, because exactly where he's looking in that northern section, and I apologize for parking and getting the bush willow in the way. There's where Tingana was seen yesterday. So it makes me wonder. Alright. I'm just gonna try and get ahead of them and go forward. Hopefully we'll be able to find the other brother. Alright, off we go. So it would be quite nice to have them walking straight to us once more. Let's see, he has stopped there, and I think he's still a little bit wary looking at the rest of the elephants that are at the dam. Let's try and see if maybe we can find the other one.